So, hi everyone. My name's Eric Rosenberg. If you don't know me, I'm Eric Rosenberg. I have been to all 6 FinCons. I found it in Chicago a long time ago. We'll get into how I found it as we get going forward. But I'm really here today to talk to you about how last year I made $40,000 on the side while still keeping a full-time job as a senior financial analyst at a Fortune 500 company. So I was working those long hours, accounting, finance stuff, and being in finance, I rounded. It was actually $39,200 and something dollars. But I rounded to the nearest million regularly, so figured I could round up a couple $100 bucks. So when I was about 2 years old, people would ask, like they ask all little kids, what do you want to be when you grow up? When I was 2, I said I wanted to be a gynecologist. Yeah. My sister was actually one of the first in vitro babies in the test tubes. We were going to the gynecologist a lot, and I knew that was the doctor that made babies. So that's what I wanted to be when I grew up. Someone shout out, what did you want to be when you grew up when you were a kid? Race car driver, fireman, teacher, fireman is popular, pilot, astronaut. Did any of you want to be a blogger? No, because blogging didn't exist. That wasn't a thing you could be when you grew up. When I was born, or when many of us were born, there was no internet. This is a new thing. Life changed a lot. And that internet thing led me to where I am. So I have 2 main brands and websites. One's called Personal Profitability. It started in October 2008 as narrowbridgeadventures.blogspot.com because I didn't know what I was doing yet. We learn a lot along the way. And that grew to build a company called Narrow Bridge Media, where I'm a full-time, now, I was not last year, freelance writer and website developer. And if you want to follow me on Twitter, tweet anything I say along the way, Eric Profits is my Twitter. So here's how my journey starts. This is all public. You can see it on my website. There's a little link at the bottom. But in 2012, that was the first year I started to do public income reports saying, here's how much I made. I started in February that year. And in that year, I brought in $9,287 in revenue, which was like life-changing money almost in a way, because I was still working that full-time job at a Fortune 500 company. I was living in Denver at the time. And $10,000 on the side, that's more than beer money. When I started my online blogging journey, before I started tracking like this, I got really excited. I was in my 20s. I needed a lot of beer money. I was going to the bars every weekend with my friends. I was so excited when I made a few bucks for my blog that I could cover going to the bar. And I kept working, and I kept working, and it grew, and then I could cover my rent, and then my mortgage. And I was dreaming, what could happen? What if I keep working at this, even just 10, 20 hours a week on the side, on evenings, on weekends, where could it go? So this is where it went. 2013, I made almost $14,000. 2014, $23,000. And last year, 2015, $39,264, or as we say, rounding, $40,000 on the side. So I want to go and tell you guys a few lessons that I learned on this path. So hopefully you can make $40,000 on the side this year, or because the year's almost over, maybe next year. But you can prorate it and make $10,000 the rest of the year, right? So lesson 1, it takes time, and it takes hard work. $10,000 in 2009 didn't make itself, and $40,000 last year. It was a lot of hours I put in. It started in 2008. This wasn't an overnight success. And there's some people at this conference, some speakers who've done these epic things. They go in like 18 months and make $200,000 online. But most people, that's not going to happen. Everyone wants to be Pat Flynn, but most of us, we're us. We're the average Joes. We're not getting stopped down the street being recognized. But you can still make a lot of money and make a difference in people's lives not being Pat Flynn. We all have, collectively in this room, an audience of probably millions of people, and we're the beginners. So in the book Outliers by Malcolm Gladwell, which I totally recommend and love, if you've not read it, do it. It's life-changing information. They talk about the 10,000 hours rule, and they say it takes 10,000 hours to become a true expert in something. And they go through stories of Bill Gates and Steve Jobs having access to computer mainframe systems in the 60s and 70s that most people could never have had dreamt of having access to at that time, even if they were PhD scientists. People like the Beatles, they spent hours and hours playing free shows in bars in Germany before they made it. But 10,000 hours, that's a lot of hours. That's 8 hours a day, 5 days a week, 44 weeks a year, so you get some vacation time, for 5.5 years. But we're doing this on the side. So it's going to take a little bit more than 5.5 years. For me, it was like 8 years to get to a point that I could quit my job and do this full time. So don't feel bad if a year in you haven't had that traction, but keep working at it. Get your 10,000 hours. Become an expert in something. And whether it's a finance topic or some derivative of that, you can become the expert. You just need to take the time. Don't kill time. Use every minute intentionally. How many hours do people spend watching TV every day? 3-4 hours in some households. I cut my cable, it's a good budgeting finance story, a few years ago. And I did the math actually 2 weeks ago and figured out since I cut cable, I saved $4,200 and something, which is pretty cool. But even more importantly, the bigger impact, I used to, before I was married, before I knew my wife, I'd come home, turn on the TV and zone out, after work. When I got rid of cable, I came home, I didn't have that TV to sit in front of and zone out. I sat in front of my laptop and zoned out writing articles. I'd go out and be with people, I'd be networking, I'd be using every minute. So don't ever kill time. You don't get that time back. Use it. You do have a lot of hours outside of work. You have 2 free vacation days every single week called Saturday and Sunday, or whatever days you have. That's 100 days a year. You have all those extra holidays. You have after work, you have before work, sometimes flexible hours. There is time, so make the time to make building your business a priority. Next, I want to say it takes money to make money. So when I said my first URL at blogspot.com shows I didn't want to pay any money for my business. I just wanted to start something for free because Blogger was free, right? But I didn't have my own .com. I didn't have my own hosting. I didn't really control everything because I was too cheap to spend $9. I was willing to put in hours and hours and hours writing articles, but I wouldn't spend $9 on it. And I was making way more than $9 an hour. So this was wouldn't have been a big deal. But I was too afraid in the beginning to invest in my business until it had made enough money to pay for itself, which it eventually did. But I could have done it a lot faster if I'd been willing to throw a few dollars in the beginning rather than waiting 6 months, a year down the road to really grow it. So I showed you a couple minutes ago the income side, but there's an expense side too. I started reporting that publicly in 2013, so the next year. 2013, I spent $1,621. 2014, $6,248. And last year, rounding, almost $10,000. But that spending allowed my business to scale and increase in a way that it couldn't have otherwise. I brought on virtual assistants, and Chris Ducker was just in this room. He's Mr. Virtual Assistant. I had assistants, I had help. I invested in tools like Edgar for social media to grow my following. I keep trying to expand it. I go to conferences. This year I went to Podcast Movement for the first time after going to all the FinCons. So going to conferences, things like that, they pay off, but it costs money. And now I'm in a good place that I'm making enough to pay for it, but in the beginning I wasn't. And sometimes, we're all here, you took that risk. So that's already a great first step. So there's some ideas you can invest in your business. So, recurring expenses. A domain and hosting, $50, $60, $70 a year. And that's like a basic. Every single business, it doesn't matter if it's brick and mortar, it doesn't matter if it's a store, every business should have a website, their own .com or .net or .whatever, .ninja, there's so many of them now, .guru. But every single business needs its own website. There's actually a pizza place about 3 blocks from where I live in Ventura, California. It's about 5 hours north of here. And it's like the best pizza place in town, and I was new in town, just moved there in April, that I'm gonna order pizza. They didn't have a website, so I went to Little Caesars instead. And pizza wasn't nearly as good, but they had a website, and the little pizza place didn't, so they lost business. So, that's $60. Some one-time expenses. I'm a website developer, so I'm a little biased on custom themes because I build them, but having a nice theme for your website, you only get one first impression. People show up within about 5 seconds. If your website doesn't load and look nice, they're gone. You have seconds of people's attention. ADD on the internet is huge. So having a nice theme, a logo, you can get one on Fiverr for $5. Fiverr, they're all over this conference this year. But sometimes you get what you pay for. I got my old logo from 99 Designs. It was $250, totally worth it. I now know a little bit more, so I can do some more of my own logo work. But if you don't know it, that's okay. Invest in it. Build your brand. Look good. A good WordPress theme, you can start at $50. It's not a $10,000 thing, though it can be if you have a growing and big business. So it's up to you what level, but it's a worthwhile investment. Then there's optional things: coaching, conferences, advertising on Facebook and Google, building your email list. Email has been pivotal for my site. I use ConvertKit, and it has been great. There's all sorts of tools. But if you think about it, if you won't spend $60 for a domain name and hosting, you should probably find something else to do with your time, because you're putting all this time in. Most of us, let's say we're middle class income, making $40,000 a year. You make more than that in a day. If you can't put a day's income into your business, it's probably not the right business for you. 3, it takes flexibility. So we said in the beginning, no one wanted to be a blogger when they grew up because that wasn't a thing. And when I started my blog, I had these dreams of building this giant site that had millions and millions of visitors, and I'd be like international blogging finance celebrity man, and that didn't quite happen. So when I started my blog, I was looking at, I thought, this is a hypothetical. Let's say you want to write about investing or credit cards or some topic that you're really passionate about. You start writing about it, then you figure out, oh, your audience doesn't actually care about investing. They want to get out of debt. They want help. But you just wanted to write about investing, so that's what you did. They're going to go somewhere else. So with your audience that's found you, they care about what you have to say, but you should also listen to them. So when I was earlier on in my blogging, when it was still called Narrowbridge Finance, before it was called Personal Profitability, I'd found a little trend in my stats that a certain type of post was doing way better than all the other posts. And they weren't the most fun posts to write, or review kind of posts, but they were doing really, really well. So even though they weren't super fun to write, I thought, you know what, maybe I should do that again. And I did, and it started to grow. And I did again, and it started to grow. So find what works. Look at your stats, look at your analytics, understand, poll your audience, send them out an email. Say, hey, fill out this 2-question survey, and I'll give you a free download of some sort. Make a little PDF workbook or something. I found out my audience really wanted help getting out of debt through side hustles recently, where I thought they just wanted to get rich from side hustles. So they were trying to get out of debt. And that's a really good thing to know. But blogging isn't just blogging. The first FinCon was called the Financial Blogger Conference. It wasn't money in media. Now it's grown to money in media because blogging is it's like the gateway drug of media. If you're a blogger, you can write. You know how to run a website. You're an expert in a topic. And all these people here are all part of the FinCon family who are doing something that is making them money that is not blogging. But it started from blogging. And that was my biggest key to where I made my income last year. I make about 5% of my income from my own blog, about 80% from freelance writing, about 20% from web development, which 80-20 rule, maybe I should stop doing web development. But it's people like Eva Baker. Does anyone know Eva? She was the youngest FinCon attendee a few years ago, and is one of the youngest still. She started a teen entrepreneurship conference, and that started because she had a blog. Agatha spoke at the first Ignite. She'd never spoken on a stage publicly before, 5 years ago. And now she's a professional paid public speaker, and that started because of her blog. This list goes on. We have accountants here who are the accountants of FinCon. We have my friend Jeff started a fulfillment by Amazon business that branched out of his blog. I got my buddy Sam back there in the back representing the Akazi. Yeah. So but this group of people done some awesome things because of their blog that are not blogs. So when an opportunity presents itself, don't look the other way. The way I started really freelancing was I was part of the Casey, that Sam just walked out, but the Casey group brought together, if you're not familiar, it's kind of like pre-FinCon online community of finance bloggers. And there was a little help desk section. We had a forum, because we used to use forums. There weren't Facebook groups yet then. And people would ask for technical advice and questions. And I was super stubborn, and I always had to do all my WordPress stuff myself, and I knew CSS and HTML and a little PHP. So I was helping people out for free, because they were my friends. We were helping each other. And then someone said, hey, can I hire you? I thought, well, I'll take money to do something I would have done for free. And that grew into a business, now 20% of my income. The same thing with freelance writing. A brand approached me at FinCon and said, hey, we'd like to hire you. And they paid me way less than I charge now for an article. But you have to start somewhere. They said, we like what you're writing about. We like your voice. Will you write for us? So I wanted my own blog to be big, but the opportunity presented itself, and I would have been a fool to look the other way. If someone wants to give you money for something, take it. Like, make it really easy. I'll take PayPal, check, cash, money order, I don't care. Make it really easy for people to give you money for doing something, obviously within ethical boundaries. But freelancing really became my thing, and it wouldn't have happened without my blog. Lesson 5, it takes connections. So I got my little 6-year pin on here. Are there anyone in here who's been to all 6 FinCons? Awesome. Anyone here for their first FinCon? Awesome. So you guys have made the best decision coming here. I mean, I'm a little biased because I keep coming to all of them, and I'm up here on the stage. But some of my closest friends, like Mike Martin here in the front row, I met at FinCon. These connections have been pivotal to me. PT, I was in a mastermind group with PT. We were on video calls once a week. Sometimes you have to reach out. I thought that was a stretch. I was like, why would PT ever want to talk to me? What do I have to contribute to PT money and FinCon? But it turned out I had quite a bit to contribute, and he had a lot to contribute to me. So connecting with people here, building your network, you can't do it alone. A hermit living on an island by himself, maybe with an internet connection can do something, but it takes a community. People have to find you, and no one's going to find you unless they know you. It's really great to become a known expert in something. It doesn't have to be budgets and credit cards. It could be my friend Jason Steele, he's a freelancer. He writes a lot about travel and travel hacking. Yeah, that's related to credit cards, but it's not get out of debt. It's not things like that. It's how to go around the world with spending as little money as possible. So become an expert in something and be recognized and known. So last night was Ignite FinCon. Were any of you guys at Ignite last night? Did you have fun? Yeah, that's why my voice is shot. So Ignite is an opportunity that I created 5 years ago at FinCon for people who are doing what I'm doing right now, other than me because I run it. People who are speakers on a solo session are not allowed to speak at Ignite. It is only for everyone else, because everyone else has something to contribute. You know something that we don't know. You are better at something here than everybody else. You have your thing. Last night for me, it was being a DJ. That was what I talked about. For Valerie Rind, it was navigating being single after divorce. For each of us had different things we talked about last night that we know a lot about, and share that. Become a known expert. So don't be afraid to put yourself out there. Throw your name out. Get on stage. You can go to networking things. We've had networking mixers around the expo hall. I've hardly gone to many sessions this year. I used to always go to every session. But over time, I've gone to fewer sessions because I'm learning less and less of the how-tos. But connecting with people here, I fully believe my income will go up probably 30% after this week from what I made last month or the month before. This is pivotal. Networking, getting up here, public speaking, guest blog, write on other people's websites, do podcast interviews. Podcasting is a way to reach millions of people who don't like to read. They're sitting in their cars driving to work. You can be in their ears. In the good old days, when we started blogging, we did things like blog carnivals and link roundups and blog swaps. But cute animals that start with a P, pandas and penguins, Google decided those things are bad, so don't do those. But get out there, network with people. People here want to help you succeed. This is not a competitive environment. I'm sure you've noticed. People want to collaborate. People want to see each other grow and succeed. There's enough, there's 300 and some million people in America. A lot of them have financial trouble. There's enough to go around. We don't have to be fighting for viewers. We can work together. So things like writing on other people's sites, podcasting, social media. You can collaborate on courses. Like one time I did a webinar last year with Steve Stewart on how to podcast. He talked about how to record, and I talked about the technical side with WordPress and getting it up there. There's all different ways you can collaborate. I've seen groups do, 5 sites will get together and do a giveaway and grow all of their email lists together because that'll give them more reach than they could on their own. Anything that's win-win, someone here will want to do that with you. And like I said, PT was in a mastermind group with me. Pat Flynn, I went and had a beer with the other day. I got to know these people because I asked. And if you don't go ask, the only answer is no. But if you ask, odds are someone will say yes. And people here want to work with you. They want to help you succeed. So masterminds, are you guys familiar with mastermind groups? So I was in a mastermind group with Martin and my friend Jeff Fruworth and PT for a very long time. That group dissolved, and now I'm in a new mastermind with these bozos on the screen. And we have a Slack channel. Slack is a online communication tool for groups. It's built for teams working together, but we're spread across the country in Austin, Portland, California, and Wyoming. And we have a Slack channel. My phone's probably buzzing right now from them talking because it's the weekend and they're hard at work. We're constantly talking. We have a weekly video call on Google Hangouts where we put one person on the hot seat. So once a month, you're on the hot seat where they dig deep and sometimes give you advice you don't want to hear. I had some very tough advice a month ago, and they were saying, you failed at this one thing. Maybe you should cut your losses and focus on the thing that you succeeded in. So having a group like that will be honest and really give you good feedback is amazing. And at the same time, you do that for them. And we become great friends. And I haven't met them all in person, but I feel like they're my closest friends. So I'm talking to them every week about some intimate parts of my life and my business that I'm not super public with. I'm pretty public. I put how much money I make on the internet. But there's things that these guys will give me super honest feedback because they want me to succeed. And I do the same for them. So mastermind group, before you leave FinCon, if you're not in one, find 2 or 3 new friends and set a schedule, whether that's a monthly call or a weekly email. That's how I started. Find a group that you can collaborate with, that you can track each other's progress over time. That is really pivotal. Again, you're more likely to get help if you ask. So whether it's a mastermind group, coming up with someone like me after we're done with this talk, networking out in the lobby or in the expo hall or after the Plutus Awards, talk to people. Lesson number 6, it takes inspiration. It's really hard in a vacuum to feel inspired. You have to go out there and read and see what other people are doing that really gets you revved up and excited. These 4 people inspire me. So Darren Rouse, the guy in black and white, when I started my blog in the beginning, there wasn't much on the internet about how to be a blogger. It was this kind of newish thing. Having been blogging for almost 10 years, it makes me 87 in blogger years. So Darren, he wrote this book and has a blog called Pro Blogger. I highly, highly, highly recommend it if you've not been. It's full of amazing resources. And while his book's a little dated, he has this cool course called 31 Days to Build a Better Blog. It's a challenge thing. Even if you don't do every day, I'd check it out. There's some awesome stuff there. And I got really lucky. I was at World Domination Summit, another conference. It's in Portland every year. I was there a couple years ago, and I got to have a beer with him and really talk to him about how pivotal he was in growing my blog 8 years ago. Chris Guillebeau, the guy who runs World Domination Summit, he has a book called Art of Nonconformity. Another guy really inspired me. I read his book. It scared me because I felt like I have to change my life when I got to the end. His whole thing is you don't have to do what other people expect of you. My parents, I thought they were going to have an aneurysm when I told them I was going to quit my job. And they didn't get it. They're like, what do you mean you're going to quit your job? You work so hard. You have an MBA. You're in finance. You're doing so great. What's wrong with you? You have a 6-month-old daughter. You're going to quit your job? And I've already, in 5 months, matched my job income by going full-time with this. So but people like him inspire me. Pat Flynn, I mean, we all know who Pat Flynn is. He's awesome, and if you've not been to Smart Passive Income, go. Chris Ducker, he's the guy who I had to kick off stage to be here right now. Again, his stuff just really speaks to me about personal branding. So these guys inspire me. They might not inspire you, but somebody out there does. It might be Miranda Marquette, who is one of the most prolific freelancers, and she is just awesome. Maybe you want to be like her. Maybe it's, there's so many people here at this conference that are doing such great things, and you have access to them. They're here, and they want to talk to you. It doesn't just have to be at FinCon. It could be your friends or your family. My wife's grandfather was a super successful entrepreneur. He's 93. He was working up till a few weeks ago. He's ill right now, which is hard. But he's impacted so many people's lives, and he inspires me. He was on my podcast even. I had a 92-year-old guy on my podcast. I thought that was kind of cool. Friends, family, celebrities, authors, entrepreneurs, coaches, teachers, mentors, artists, musicians, normal people, any people who spoke at Ignite FinCon or TED Talks. Find people who inspire you and make you want to be better. Don't rip them off, but emulation is the best form of flattery. So take the bits and pieces that really speak to you and try to put that into your business and your planning to grow. Because someone has gone through the same struggles as you. So look to those people for inspiration. Part of why I'm so connected with what Pat Flynn's doing, one day he went into work, he was an architect, and he went into the office and his boss sat him down and said, "Today's your last day." He was laid off. And that was how he started his online business, the next day. I had a similar situation one time. Though the stars aligned and I got a job like the next day. It was very bizarre. But I had that same kind of feeling as Pat. So that's why I was so inspired by him. We've gone through the same thing. And look what he's doing. Now he makes like $1 zillion a month online. He posts it publicly too. That's another thing I emulated. I saw what he was doing. It works. I'm totally into it. So I post my income online. So I thought, he inspires me. Maybe I can inspire somebody. Lesson 7, dream big. I like to say, there's a saying, I didn't come up with it. I'm not this clever. But if you shoot for the moon and miss, you end up among the stars. I thought I was going to be this big blogger with my own brand, and people were going to stop me in airports and be like, "Hey, it's that finance guy, personal profitability." That didn't happen. But I quit my job in April, and I'm doing this full time. That's pretty cool. It's not as glamorous as I thought it would be, but I do live a 5-minute walk from the beach. That's pretty cool. And I get to work in my pajamas if I want. I try to shower by lunchtime. That's always my goal. Like I had a dream last year. I thought, I want to fly a plane. I was like, how cool would it be to get in a plane and get out there? Like what's more freedom like than being in the sky? So I took a lesson. It was a birthday present, and I was hooked. It's like, I have to do this. I'm going to be a pilot. And I worked at it and spent $7,130. It was a lot of money. But that time I still had the full-time job, so I wasn't too worried. But the day I moved from Portland to California in April was the day I got my license. This picture was after my first solo flight when I flew an airplane by myself. And that's kind of scary, right? Like I took off. I was all happy with that part. Taking off's really easy. And I circled around the airport, and I was lining up to land, and I was like, well, I guess if I screw up, it's on me now. Like, I didn't have any instructor there. But I knew I could do it because I'd worked hard. The instructor believed in me. I'd had that dream, and I followed through, and I did it. Now I'm a pilot. Like, how cool is that? I could have flown down here. I took the train instead, which was funny. I was supposed to be here at 3 o'clock on Wednesday, but Amtrak had other plans for me. I didn't get here till 6. But if I'd flown myself, I could have got down here in 2 hours. So pick a dream. It doesn't have to be something about your blog, but by picking a dream and sharing it with your audience that you're following through. In my monthly income reports, I was always saying, hey, here's where I'm at in my pilot lessons. Here's where I'm traveling. Here's what I'm doing. And trying to inspire and connect with people and share my dreams. And by putting it online, it made me feel like I had to be accountable to my audience and really do it, and more accountable to myself. So I know most people don't want to fly planes around because, it's flying planes around, but you have some dream, right? How many of you wish you could quit your job and work online full time? Yes. How many of you just want to make the money on the side but grow your income so you can retire easier or save more or get a better house or do something and keep your job? Whatever your dream is, you can do it. But you have to follow through, and you have to have that dream. My favorite book I've ever read in my life is The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho. It's the only book I've ever read more than once. I've read it 3 times. So it's a life-changing kind of book. Don't read it unless you want to change your life. Same with Art of Nonconformity. And in The Alchemist, he says that there's a character who's a mythic, like an alchemist. And he says, when you want something, all the universe conspires in helping you achieve it. So what do you want, and what action are you taking to make it happen? Going online and reading courses and reading other people's blogs and coming to sessions like this, that's all helpful. It fills your head with awesome information. But unless you act on it, it's just, you might as well watch TV. So, follow through, and the universe will help it work. I wanted to leave in the beginning, I didn't want to leave my job. I thought, that's crazy. I liked what I was doing. I liked benefits and not having to pay for healthcare out of my pocket and things like that. But the universe brought me down this path when people said, I want to pay you to write articles. I want to pay you to fix my website. So take action, follow through. So those are my 7 inspiring, I hope, steps to how I earned $40,000 on the side last year. I'm on track this year now, having quit my job, to probably double that by having those more hours. Connect with me, send me an email, eric@ericrosenberg.me. I have like 7 email addresses. They all go to the same place. Please do email me, personalprofitability.com, narrowbridgemedia.com. There's all my social places. Let's be friends on the internet and real life. I really do want to know all of you. You're part of the FinCon community, which is like my family. And I hope you can make $40,000 on the side this year or next year, or a whole lot more. So thank you. So yeah. Yeah, so the question was, did I set revenue targets, or did it just happen randomly? In the beginning, it was more random. I was really I just want to cover my beer tabs. I used to go to nightclubs a lot. If you couldn't tell last night, I'm really into DJing. So I was I just want to cover my trips to Beta so I can go buy a round of Jaeger bombs for my friends. That was in the beginning. And but it's grown over time, and I did start setting more rigid goals about 2 years ago. And I found that did help me. It gave me a focus. It gave me a place I wanted to get to, and that was a good thing for me. Yeah. Oh yeah. So a social media tool. The question was, I mentioned Edgar. There's a site called meetedgar.com. It's a social media automation tool. It's about $50 a month. You can preload Twitter and Facebook posts, and it will post them randomly or scheduled. It's super, super powerful. So that was that. Yeah.
What suggestions do you have about, as far as which domain?
Yeah.
.com.net. I thought of the name, but the .com.
Yeah, so the question was thoughts on .net versus .other things. So .com generally is the best. My old site was narrowbridge.net. Because narrowbridge.com was taken. I don't know that was hugely holding me back. I've seen ProBlogger is ProBlogger.net, and he is wildly successful. So not having a .com won't guarantee failure, but having a .com makes it a little easier because it's so much more recognized. Over time, now .co, .me. My personal website's ericrosenberg.me because they want $2,000 for ericrosenberg.com. So I'm not giving them that, so I'm ericrosenberg.me. So there are times that it's better, but if you can get an exact match of your brand name to your domain, that is very powerful with Google. But getting a .guru or .plumber or .xyz, because it's less recognized to people, it might make it a little harder for them to say, oh yeah, I'm going to go to your website .something, and they cost a little more. So, not a huge amount more, but .com is usually the best if you can do it. Yeah. So the question is, how did I set up my mastermind group? So at the very first FinCon, there were only about 100 and some people, not many more people than are in this room. We're at the whole conference. and I got to be friends with this bozo and Martin, not, and Jeff and a guy named Shane Ead. His site's Beating Broke, and we just became fast friends, and that's how we started our mastermind. We thought it was Jeff. He was kind of the ringleader. He said he really wanted to do it the most of us, so he was the one who'd send us the reminder for our weekly emails and schedule our hangouts. So it took one person to kind of take the reign and be the leader. And my new mastermind group, the guy Paul, I didn't say all their names, but Paul's our ringleader and set up the Slack group and sets up everything. So it just takes one person to be the ringleader. So if you want to be that person, find a few friends. It doesn't take a lot of work, but it takes one person to kind of be the glue and pushes it forward. Yeah. So the question was, how did I learn web development with a finance background? So the answer is kind of, I'm a little bit of a nerd. I built my first website. I'll admit it was a pro wrestling fan website in high school on GeoCities. You guys remember GeoCities, that black hole of crap on the internet? Yeah, Angel Fire was another black hole of crap on the internet. So I had a GeoCities site because I thought The Rock was the bee's knees and everyone needed to know it. And I learned HTML before CSS was even really a big thing. When I was in high school, I just kind of self-taught it. And along the way, I broke my website so many times, I always had to learn how to fix it. And I could always hire people out to fix it. So that was my journey, was just kind of figuring it out as I went. But there are awesome resources now that didn't exist then. There's one site called codecademy.com. It is a totally free place. You can take courses to learn pretty much any major web programming language. I was working on a Python course recently because that's something I want to add to my knowledge base. It's not going to make you the world's foremost expert, but for free it gives you a good crash course and lets you know if you want to learn more. The best course I ever took to really solidify my HTML and CSS skills was on Udemy. Udemy, their pricing just changed, so I don't know what their pricing's like now. But there's usually coupons and deals out there, so never pay like $300 for Udemy course. You can often find that same course like a week later for $7 or something. So search around, but Udemy was a great place for me because I had a dual monitor set up and I could watch the video and see what he was doing on one screen, and then I used Sublime Text 2 as my text editor for code. I had that up in the other screen, so I was able to learn while I worked through things. Yeah.
I'm just curious, on like if you want to do a mastermind group, what do you think, what's the small size and what's the largest size ideally for that group?
I really like 4. I've seen some groups that are really successful with more. I'd start with 4 people because the more people, it's more schedules to coordinate. And some groups are very, very strict. Like I know like Pat Flynn, I keep talking about Pat. He's in a group that if you miss 2 weeks in a row, they kick you out. So they're like very strict. I'm in one that's a little more loose. We're all dad entrepreneurs actually in my group. So like we know like kids get sick and there's bedtimes and we're all travelers, so we're a little more lax. But I really like 4 as a starting point. The biggest I've been in was about 6 or 7. And then I think it starts to get harder to really keep up with what everyone's doing. Because if you really want to give genuine feedback, you have to really follow what your whole group's doing. And following more people in depth gets challenging. Yeah. Sounds good. We'll talk after. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. So the question was, how does being a dad, how's that impacted the time I've been able to put into my business? So I actually kind of give my daughter credit in a way for me quitting my job, because before I had a kid, I could work all day and then come home and work all night, and the only thing that suffered was maybe a little time with my wife, which I have an awesome wife who's super supportive and was okay with me working hard in the evenings. When I had a baby, I realized I had enough time to be a really good dad, a really good employee, or a really good business owner. I could do 2 of those things, but I couldn't do all 3. Like I couldn't come home and work all day and be a good dad. or I couldn't go be gone all day and still run my business. Something had to give. Being a good dad, that was not an option. I'm not giving that up. My daughter's most important thing in my life. My family comes first. So it was either quit this business thing that I've been working on for almost a decade, or quit the job that pays me a steady paycheck and all the perks. But I felt so drained going into that gray cubicle every day. It was really a series of boss changes. I had a really amazing boss when I started at my last company. We got along so great. He was someone I kind of looked to as a mentor. I was thinking like I could actually have a long career at this company. Then we had some boss changes, and I just started to feel drained, and it was getting harder to go in every day. And coming home every night and working on my own business and being with my daughter were the highlights of my day. So I thought, I'm making enough on the side that it was worth taking the risk. We sold our house at the same time because we wanted to move down to California to be closer to family. So we had about 5 years of expenses in the bank from selling the house, which I know is not that common. Like most people don't sell a house with giant equity. But doing that, I knew if I didn't make $1 for 5 years, I'd be okay. But I'd made $40,000 last year, so I figured I could at least make 30. You know, maybe I screw up a little bit, lose a client, but I'd make enough that with the savings we'd be fine. And luckily, knock on wood, I haven't had to dip into those savings. But the daughter, she was the biggest motivation to be home and to make the big change. Yes. So what are my income streams? So this will add up to 105%, so I know it's not exact, but about 80% of my income comes from freelance writing. That is by far my biggest income source. And I actually, about 3 weeks ago, just did my QuickBooks for the month, because I used to be an accountant. I do my own. For most people, that's not always a great idea, but I used to be a corporate accountant, so I knew what I was doing. And I looked at my books, and I'd figured in my head I was spending about 80% of my time on website development. Then I saw that 20% of my income was from website development. I was like, maybe I should make a change. So I actually raised my rates for my web development business to make it more worthwhile, and really started to focus more on writing to try to grow that, because more money with less time, I mean, that's kind of the no-brainer. In my own website, Personal Profitability, it's about 5% of my income. Yeah.
Man, firstly, just a comment. You and I were still drinking at 3 a.m. this morning, so you've done really good.
Thank you.
A quick question. If you were starting tomorrow a blog that had the name, it had the site, what would you do first?
The question is, if I were starting over tomorrow, what would I do first if I already had the name and the site? I would sign up for ConvertKit and put an email list together. So everyone and I'd get SumoMe. SumoMe is it used to be free. Actually, Noah Kagan, the guy who runs SumoMe, is the keynote today. But SumoMe has super powerful tools to help collect email. There's a thing called Welcome Mat. It's one of the tools. That was the #1 thing that changed my email lists more than anything else. I get more emails from that than I did in the last 4 years combined this year. So Welcome Mat was like huge. And also getting links from MSN every once in a while helps too. But the Welcome Mat increased my conversion percentage dramatically, and connecting that to ConvertKit. I'm an affiliate, personalprofitability.com/ConvertKit. Not pimping my affiliate links in my session, but ConvertKit helps you build that email list. Because Facebook changes its algorithm all the time. Twitter changes its algorithm. They just changed it. You can't control what the social networks do. You can't control what Google does. But if you have someone's email address, you can reach them. So building that email list would be the first thing I'd do. Yeah.
Your mastermind group, was that designed for a diverse set of folks, or people with similar experience and goals?
Yeah, so the question was the mastermind group intentionally similar interests or diverse interests? And it was kind of random. We were all, the original 4 of us, we're all finance bloggers at roughly the same level of experience and success. So we were going through the same things. We didn't have that super diverse mind input, which is why we invited PT actually to join us. We knew he wasn't in a mastermind group. And we thought, well, if we have one guy or one person, doesn't have to be a guy, one person who has that big experience and has done something a little different could be really beneficial to all of us. And because we're, as FinCon attendees, his target market, we could really maybe offer something back to him as well. And we'd all seen varying successes in different avenues in our blogging. So, some were advertising based, some were affiliate based, some were, we were trying to do different things. So that was good, but we were kind of homogeneous in the beginning. That was just coincidence, that wasn't on purpose. Any other questions? Yeah. Okay, so the question is, why would I leave Oregon to go to California? Oh, yeah, Bend is beautiful. I'd never been to Bend until my drive down to California when I moved. But I've been. An amazing beer in Bend. So we moved, the biggest thing was my wife's family lives about 20 minutes from where we are now. With the baby, we thought we should be by family, and that meant going back to Denver, where I'm from, or going to California, where the weather is sunny always, and it's warm, and I don't need a winter coat, and I can live near the beach. So, well, I miss the mountains a little bit, and I totally miss my family in Denver. The weather was the breaking factor of which family we decided to live by. It's gorgeous here. And after living in Oregon, like Portland's cloudy and rainy for 9 months straight every year. And it's always sunny in California. Not Philadelphia, even though the TV show says so. Yeah. Any other questions? Great, well, thank you all so much for coming. I'll hang out in the back outside the door if you want to talk and ask anything else. And shoot me an email, be in touch. Thank you.